Okay. Hello YouTube, my name is Loy and today I'm here at Cafe Bloc. Sorry for lagging behind on the YouTube. Today I thought was a good chance since I ran out of skin. I just became a Lattice ambassador. They haven't done the official announcement yet. It'll happen sometimes and they sent me over a bunch of stuff. Since I have no skin, today was a really good chance to do some training with like skin saving devices. So of course wearing the Lattice shirt. I think this might be the first YouTube video where I'm not wearing Rage, which is kind of crazy. So shout out Lattice for supporting. I'm going to be trying out their pinch block, and then I'll also be using their new MXL edge lift block. This has really been the thing that I've been really wanting to try, and I'm going to pair it with a Tindeq, so we're going to be able to see some big numbers, or maybe not, but we'll definitely see some numbers. And I'll kind of go through like the best finger training routine. This is the type of training that's like principle based, and that's what helped me gain a lot of my finger strength. So I'll teach you how to set that up and the reasons why behind all of that. So let's start off with all the equipment that you'll need. You'll need edge lifting block, you'll need a Tindeq, and then I also always carry around a bunch of carabiners and a sling. The sling is the most important thing because not only is it good for edge lifting, but it's also super useful for like if you need to do pull-ups or anything. You just sling the sling through all the plates and it will give you like a proper setup for doing pull-ups in like a street lifting form, which I think too many climbers perform pull-ups with like very bad form. So I think it's definitely something that a lot of climbers can spec into. So with these three things, you can do a pretty standard setup. I like to just grab a plate. I don't like using a lifting pin because it ends up being too long. So I just grab a plate, wrap the sling through the plate, reattach it on this side, attach the sling to the Tindeq, and then the Tindeq to the edge lift. And if this is too long, then I can wrap the sling in on itself again. So we'll do that just right now. And then we get this perfect little setup that is basically usable in any gym, because every gym, at least in North America, because I know in Europe and stuff, they don't really have gym equipment, but almost everywhere in North America, you'll have a plate. And if you have a plate, then you can do this setup. You can also do it with the loading pin, but like I said, it makes it higher and you don't necessarily want it so high. I'll explain why in a bit. But yeah, this is the setup and it's perfect height for me. I know a lot of people actually like using a chain, but I find it's just too heavy to carry around. But the chain obviously lets you go by link, which will make it more accurate for your length. But I guess I'm a lucky length and I figured out how to do this setup. So the point of this being the best finger training exercise is that we have to first ask the question, why are we even training? Like, what is training, right? And so a lot of people fall into the trap that training needs to look like their sport, which can be true, but also is not necessarily true, right? Training is about creating an adaptation from the training stimulus so that we can use it in our sport, okay? So what type of adaptation are we looking from finger training? We're looking to create more force with our fingers. Okay, so what is the cause of creating more force? It's our muscles in our forearms contracting to create more force, right? So we're producing force from the contraction of muscle fibers in our forearms. And so to get more of that, we need to contract harder with more load. And so now you're thinking like, oh, this seems very straightforward. Obviously, to get stronger, you need to lift heavier. So just put more weight and lift heavier. But that's not true in climbing because the fingers, this entire kind of arm part, it's very interesting. And as you begin to create the mind-muscle connection towards your fingers and your forearms, mind muscle in the bro term, not in the lip because there's no muscles in your fingers, but like the sensation in your hands and your forearms, once you get more accustomed to that, you'll realize there's a really large difference between two things. One term called active flexion, when you're actively flexing your muscles, and passive tension, when you're, instead of actively flexing, it's more so a resistive force that you're applying. And this resistive force, you can load much, much heavier. So these are reasons why like full dragging or full crimping will let you do more weight because you're creating a better structure to passively load the tissue in your hand so you can hold more load, but you're not actually producing more force with your forearms, right? And so there's a lot of confusion between training stimulus and actual performance, because in performance, you do want to use those passive structures because that will allow you to hold the hold better and have more leverage on it. But in training, we don't want to do that because your tendons are already getting the necessary adaptive stimulus to grow thicker. What we're really looking after is muscular recruitment, which is much faster to adapt. So if we end up overdoing it in training, we'll just get an overuse tendon or ligament injury, right? But that's why like lifting super heavy is not necessarily the answer. And isolating the forearm muscle fibers is what we're really after. And so I'm gonna show you this setup that's really gonna, I find is the easiest way to do that. So we have a Tindeq and you'll connect it to your phone. You'll see here, I haven't really warmed up, so it won't be like crazy numbers or anything. But if I pull the slack out of it, and I only use my fingers to produce the force, so I'm just curling with my forearms, and this, I'll tell you some cues after. I can only produce about 70 pounds of force right now, ish. You can see me going up and down. But as soon as I like say, screw it, I'm just gonna like pull as hard as possible, I can easily pull like way harder. As you just saw, I pulled 100 pounds right there because I was just locking and resisting my fingers there. So you can see that there's a huge difference between the force I can produce with my forearms and the force I can put through my fingers. And that's the very, very important distinction. We want to be recruiting more muscle fibers in the training and not just putting unnecessary load to the fingers, because that's how you get overuse injuries. So I'll go through it and I'll show you some cues and I'll hope you learn something. So the first cue that I was thinking is that the curling action is very similar to like bringing your fingers to your palm. So you want to do this motion. And if you are, shredded enough, I guess, you can see your forearms contracting, right? So you want this concentric contraction of your forearm. That's the muscle, and that's what you're producing force with. So let's reset this, and then let's start with the right hand. Another cue that you really want to pay attention to is pulling the slack out of it. So this setup is the perfect height for me because my legs are straight, my back is straight relatively. This is extended and I'm in like a 4-finger drag position. And this will allow me to go from 4-finger drag to like curling all the way. So right now there's no load on the bar. I pull the slack just like a deadlift, and then I start pulling. Nice, 100 pounds. Yeah, so my finger's a little tweaky on the left, so that's why it was less weight. And my right's always like more comfy, warming up quick. But you can see, I just contracted. And I'll show you the exact same thing. If I decide to like deadlift it, easily 30 more pounds, right? So it's all about like pulling the slack out, not using your legs, not using your back, not leaning back, and really just standing up straight and contracting with your fingers. So we'll take a little rest, I'll drink some water, and then we'll do some real reps. It's important to note that your isolated finger curls will always be less than what your max force you can put through your fingers is. But you have to like check your ego, because it's not about putting the max force through your fingers. It's about contracting as much as possible in your forearms. Because like that crazy like passive tension strength, like all the comp kids who've been climbing for like 15 years, they drag everything, or those people who've been full crimping, they're like 20 years and they just full crimp everything and they never get injured. Like those people have been doing it for so long, and the structures of their hands are so robust that obviously they can handle those loads. But when you're someone like me, who's been climbing for 4 years only, and like I'm already like genetically gifted where I haven't really been injured up until now. This is obviously a much better approach because you're lowering the amount of unnecessary load through the fingers, right? So it's not about how much load, it's about where is that load being placed. And you want that load to be placed on your muscles, not on your fingers, because your fingers are already getting the necessary stimulus to develop and grow those passive structures, right? And that's it. That's like the whole premise, and that's what happens when you go from a principle-based approach for training. And you can use the same approach for every single other exercise, including pull-ups, one-arm pull-ups, front lever, and I'm going to show you the exact same process on how to build a program with the pinch block after. So let's go into like some bigger training lifts. Another thing is that's always good to remember is you should always start with your weaker hand, which happens to be my left, kind of, it depends. Also, shout out Underground Climbing for the chalk and the chalk bucket. It's been super sweet. There's a link down below if you're looking for a bucket or some chalk. So same setup, we're gonna pull the slack out, And then Q, deep breath, brace your core. And flex with the fingers, 89 pounds. The finger's still bothering me a little, so I'm gonna stretch it out, try to warm it up. And we'll do 2 reps on that. Pull the slack out. $89 pounds. I don't think I broke the last one. We'll see where it's at because I wasn't looking because I was focusing. And then the right hand, let's see where it goes to. Same thing, pull the slack out. Feels much more comfortable, 140 pounds. So obviously you can tell there's like a little tweak with my left hand. This middle finger joint is not feeling the best, feeling a little tweaky. So obviously I'm pulling less. But if I was doing just normal lifts, maybe I wouldn't feel that. It's very likely that I would have pushed through because it's much easier to put that force through the finger and I would be overloading it. Here, because it hurts, like I can only contract the 89 pounds. But like, I'm not gonna do it because it's dumb, but like you saw before, I could pull more than that by using my legs and lifting. And if I was using a pin and putting actual weight on it, you would see how much unnecessary force I would be putting through my fingers in that instance. So I'm gonna give it a rest and then we'll do one more and then we'll keep going. But you can totally see, this is a great example of like the force that you're producing with your muscle versus the force that you can put through your hand. Passive versus active strength, very different. And it might be difficult to understand like, okay, but in climbing, you're using a lot of that passive strength. So why do you care about the active strength? It's because and it is really hard to understand, but once you develop this active strength, you realize how useful it is on all the holds. And you start realizing that, oh, you can grab 6 millimeters in an active position instead of only through your tendons. And that allows you to get in so many different positions with your shoulder because you're engaging on it properly instead of just hanging there. And so it really unlocks a lot of things. Piano matching becomes much easier because you can contract the individual fingers to like move them much better. So there's all of these little things that are become background ideas. You don't need to think about them anymore because you're just strong enough to do them. So it gives you more leeway and everything. And that's the same thing with just getting stronger in anything. So I guess that was enough banter. We'll go right into another lift. Left hand. Let's see if we're feeling better. I'm warming up. I can feel it, 115, that's pretty good. Yeah. It's warming up. That's a funny thing too. Your fingers warm up and you can start pulling heavier, but it's not necessarily good. So I'll keep warming up slowly. 115, not too bad. 147. That's very good. That's very close to my body weight. On an active curl, that's very good. And so, yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I'm really, really liking this MXL lift from Lattice. It's very different from all the other kind of in the style edge. Basically, what's different, here I'll actually show you with the camera. What makes it different is that, I don't know if you can really see it, but it's unlevel. So that means it's deeper in the middle here than it is on this side. So it curves. Maybe you can see it there better a little bit. Here, wait. Yeah, there, I think you can see that a lot better. It curves. So this is like the same idea as like those unlevel edges, which would be like, I'll put a picture because that was a terrible example. It puts your fingers in a more even position. So they're all at the same contracted length. When you're on a normal edge like this, you have to cram your fingers and they end up at different lengths. My pinky becomes like super drag, and these two fingers have to like cramp in. I don't know if you can see that, right? That's super cramped. But if you create an edge like this and it allows your fingers to all be at the same length of contraction when you're pulling, these fingers will be less accentuated and you'll be able to like contract evenly across all the fingers. Like you can see it like this, contract evenly across all the fingers, which will allow like the training load to be dispersed and you'll work all of your fingers equally. I can really tell it because the first time I tried it, I actually had difficulty like using it because I didn't really understand. And I actually, to pull harder, I used, like I twisted my hand to use these two fingers more because they're the overtrained ones, the ones that have been training the most. So it's really cool to use this and like train all my fingers evenly. And also it's super comfy. You don't have to like wedge your fingers in anymore. So really been liking this. They don't ship to Canada or North America, so I'm not too sure, but I'll ask them if there's a link somewhere that I could link to, and it'll be down below if you want to get your own. Very sweet thing. Okay, let's do 2 more power reps and then we'll do the pinch. Ah, 119, nice. Okay, let's try to get 150 on the right. That would be freaking sick. Oh, no, I'm not recording. I forgot to screen record. Oopsie, well, left hand was fake then, I guess. Let's get comfy. Lock out. Pull the slack out. Oh, I didn't get it. I don't know what number it was. Okay, I got 1 more rep to try it and then we'll move on. But you'll see that I'm using this very high intensity, low volume style training, which, I mean, I come from a powerlifting background, so this is like the standard way to grow power, like from basic like principles of sports science. But I don't see a lot of people doing that, and there's definitely something to creating a training plan with more volume a little bit and less intensity, because I do find max force is really hard on the mental and the nervous system to like keep doing in and out. But this is like the style that's the most fun to me, especially with the finger stuff. It's more satisfying, I feel like, than pulling like 80% for like 4 reps. So yeah, that's mostly why I'm doing it. But it's given me a lot of good gains, and it's very quick. So that's like why I like to do it. It's just my style. And this like kind of session is kind of inspired by Zach actually recently. I realized like Zach is so focused when he does his training, and I can clearly see like why that would be beneficial. And so I'm gonna try to experiment with doing not shorter sessions, but more focused sessions, and implementing this pinch training and finger training in this way. And we'll see if that like gives me some good gains, because I think I've been doing a little overtraining. I climb too much. It's not putting the training where like I need it. We're gonna do that. Okay. Hopefully the music's not too loud. I think I'm trying to block it with my body, but we'll see. 119 is the number to beat. Nice, 146.9. I keep forgetting to screen record. Okay, well, 150, come on. Nice. I might have leaned into it a little bit there. That seems like very high, but I guess we'll take it. So, I mean, you got a screen recording, but you should, oh, that might be too overexposed. But not bad. So let's go to pinch, and I'll explain the same kind of principle-based approach for the pinching. This might be a little high. Okay, it's probably a little high, probably need a little platform, or I could figure something out with the ropes, but we'll try it like this. The reason I'm not using a Tindeq for pinching versus like using the actual weights is because there isn't really that passive tension component in pinching. It's like, can you squeeze hard enough or can you not? Or else it just like slips out. So there's nothing like catching on to the pinch to like keep the load going. So there's no like resistive effect. And so because of that, you don't need to do the isolation style. And that's like also from like personal experience of how I feel it goes. It's really about how hard can you squeeze. So let's just, so this is just normal pinch blocking up until like a hard, heavy amount. I haven't really done this, so this is more of like a testing phase, so we'll see. And I've never used this pinch block, so we'll see if it's better with chalk or not, etc. Interesting. It's kind of, I think, a little too big for my, chalk is definitely better, I think. Big for my hand. We'll definitely get a platform going. Good warm up, that was 35 pounds. Let's add another 10 pounds. I want to go slowly so I don't overcook myself. Pinching's really something that can turn up super hard, super fast. Learning how to grip this thing. Let's grip and rip. That's tough. There actually was a little bit of passive tension I was feeling. Something was like catching very well, and it was pulling. It felt like a dragging sensation. So I'm gonna like adjust my grip so I don't do that. But that was interesting thing to happen. I've never done dedicated pinch training consistently, so it's gonna be an interesting thing to like keep going and see if I can really progress. Because I would say I'm not bad at pinching, but I'm not good at pinching. So let's try not to choke up on this one too much and just pinch. Oh. You can really feel it. Let's see if I can do 10 more pounds. Interestingly enough, I am kind of feeling that with this block there is like a kind of passive tension component, which I think it might be partially like how I'm holding it, but it is interesting. It's this thin pinch thing idea that could be really useful. So we'll keep testing it out and see, and I might change it up at a later date. But it's always something to like keep in mind, right? You're always evolving, especially I haven't done this exercise before to an in-depth position, so gotta learn more about it. Always learning. Okay, what is this? 35 plus 20, 55 pounds. Let's get her. Exactly flat. You can see it's like in cut, so it's kind of like grabbing my thumb and my finger here, like I'm kind of hooking on it. Okay, I figured it out. Okay, so the thing that was catching is because of the angle that I was holding it at. With my right hand, I wanted it slightly tilted this way so that I wouldn't catch my index finger so much. And that felt like a really good pinch. And on the left, it was the same thing, but just twisted this way. And so that resolves any of that. So yeah, we'll definitely keep going. And I'll try all these other different grip variations. We'll see how that goes. But that was kind of my finger training, and that's what I'm going to be doing going forward. And I'll keep you guys updated to see if this is going to be really good, or maybe not good, but I think it's going to be really great for me. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, leave a comment down below if you enjoyed this type of content, and I'll see you guys next week.